Welcome to Forbidden Files. There is a building in a small Dutch city that most people have never heard of. Inside it, workers in full-body suits, covering every centimeter of skin, assemble a machine so complex that its instruction manual runs to millions of pages. That machine costs $400 million. It takes 7 Boeing 747 cargo planes to deliver just one of them. And every advanced computer chip on Earth, every iPhone, every AI server, every military guidance system, every electric vehicle depends on it. There is only one company on Earth that can build it. And if that building stopped working tomorrow, the global economy would begin to collapse within months. Medium pause. The city is Veldhoven, population 45,000, in the south of the Netherlands, a flat, quiet country smaller than the state of West Virginia. And from this one campus, a company called ASML controls the most strategically critical technology on the planet. To understand why, you need to understand what a computer chip actually is. The chip inside a modern smartphone contains approximately 15 billion transistors, each one smaller than a virus, packed onto a piece of silicon roughly the size of a fingernail. These transistors switch on and off billions of times per second, and that switching is what makes computation possible. Everything a computer does, every calculation, every image, every word of text, is ultimately billions of tiny switches flipping on and off. In 1965, Intel co-founder Gordon Moore observed that the number of transistors on a chip doubled roughly every 2 years. More transistors meant more power, faster phones, more capable AI, more sophisticated weapons. For 60 years, the semiconductor industry lived or died by its ability to keep Moore's law running. But there is a fundamental physics problem. To etch a pattern onto a silicon wafer, you shine light through a stencil, and the light burns the pattern into the surface, but you can only etch patterns as small as the wavelength of light you are using. Shrink transistors below a certain size, conventional light cannot do the job. The solution was extreme ultraviolet light, EUV, with a wavelength of just 13.5 nanometers, 40 times shorter than visible light. In theory, it could keep Moore's law alive. In practice, EUV light is absorbed by almost everything, by air, by glass, by conventional lenses. The entire process has to happen in a near-perfect vacuum. The mirrors directing the light have to be smooth to within the width of a single atom. Most experts believed it was impossible. ASML was founded in 1984 as a joint venture between Philips and a small Dutch technology company. For its first decade, it was an unremarkable manufacturer of older lithography machines, the kind that competitors like Nikon and Canon from Japan also made. Then in the 1990s, ASML made a bet. The company decided to spend whatever it took, for as long as it took, to make EUV lithography work. The development program ran for more than 30 years. It cost billions. There were moments when engineers believed it could not be done. There were moments when ASML's survival depended on continued investment from customers who were not sure the machine would ever actually ship. Intel, Samsung, and TSMC each invested directly in ASML during the critical years, not just as customers, but as co-investors in a technology they desperately needed and were not sure would ever exist. Insit medium pause. What ASML eventually built is unlike any other machine on Earth. The EUV machine, officially called the TwinScan NXE, is roughly the size of a double-decker bus. It weighs over 100 tons. It contains more than 100,000 individual components. And at its heart is a process so extraordinary it borders on science fiction. And at its heart is a process so extraordinary it borders on science fiction. To generate EUV light, the machine fires a high-powered laser at tiny droplets of molten tin, each one about the width of a human hair, at a rate of 50,000 droplets per second. Each droplet is vaporized by the laser into a plasma that emits extreme ultraviolet light. That light is then captured by curved mirrors, polished to atomic smoothness, and directed through a vacuum onto a silicon wafer. The entire process happens 50,000 times every second, continuously. in a vacuum, without error. Medium pause. The environment the machine operates in is almost impossible to comprehend. The clean rooms where EUV machines are assembled and operated are 10,000 times cleaner than a hospital operating theater. A single particle of dust, invisible to the naked eye, landing on the wrong surface would ruin the process. Workers wear full-body suits covering every centimeter of exposed skin. They pass through airlocks. They breathe filtered air. The machines themselves are constantly monitored by thousands of sensors measuring temperature, vibration, and contamination levels in real time. And then there is the cost. A single EUV machine costs between $350 and $400 million. The newest high-NA EUV systems cost even more. Delivering one machine to a customer requires 7 Boeing 747 cargo aircraft, or alternatively, 25 specialized trucks. A team of ASML engineers travels with every machine. Installation at the customer's facility takes months, and the customer then waits, sometimes for years, because ASML can only build a limited number of machines per year. The waiting list is extraordinary. At the end of 2025, ASML's order backlog stood at 38.8 billion euros. In the final quarter of 2025 alone, new orders more than doubled from the previous quarter. The company guides to revenues of between 44 and 60 billion euros by 2030. Every major chip maker on Earth, TSMC, Samsung, Intel, SK Hynix, is dependent on ASML machines. And there is no alternative. Nikon and Canon, ASML's Japanese rivals who once competed on roughly equal terms, never made the EUV transition work. They still make older lithography machines using conventional light. Those machines are fine for less advanced chips. But for the most advanced chips in the world, the ones that power AI, the ones in the latest smartphones, the ones in cutting-edge weapon systems, you need EUV. And only ASML makes EUV machines. 100% market share. An absolute monopoly. An absolute monopoly. And this is where the story becomes geopolitical. In 2019, under pressure from the United States government, the Dutch government revoked ASML's export license to sell EUV machines to China. That's a radical move. China, which has been desperately trying to build a competitive semiconductor industry, was cut off from the one machine it needed most. Without EUV, Chinese chip makers cannot manufacture transistors below 7 nanometers. The world's most advanced chips are now at 2 nanometers and going smaller. China is locked years behind, and the gap is growing. Beijing has poured hundreds of billions of dollars into trying to catch up. A Chinese EUV prototype was unveiled in December 2025, but analysts estimate it will not be ready for mass production until 2028 at the earliest, and even then, it will be years behind ASML's current technology. ASML is not standing still. While China works on replicating technology from a decade ago, ASML is already shipping the next generation, when China works on replicating technology from a decade ago. But ASML is only part of the story. Because even if you have an EUV machine, you still need someone to operate it. And almost all of the world's most advanced chips are made in one place. On a small island 100 miles off the coast of mainland China. On a small island. Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, TSMC, was founded in 1987 by Morris Chang, a Texas Instruments engineer who had a radical idea. Instead of designing chips and manufacturing them, why not just do the manufacturing for everyone? A pure-play foundry. Companies that designed chips but could not afford to build their own factories would outsource the manufacturing to TSMC. Medium pause. The model worked beyond anything Chang imagined. Today, TSMC manufactures chips for Apple, NVIDIA, AMD, Qualcomm, Broadcom, and hundreds of other companies. It makes almost 90% of the world's most advanced chips. The chip inside your iPhone, designed by Apple in California, manufactured by TSMC in Taiwan. The GPU powering the AI revolution, designed by NVIDIA in Silicon Valley, manufactured by TSMC in Taiwan. the processor in a US military drone, designed in America, manufactured in Taiwan. To pronouncing Chang's American neighbor production verilier and accelerating the picture visual or waramai. The world got a preview of what TSMC dependency means in 2020 and 2021. When the pandemic disrupted chip supply chains, not even stopping TSMC, just slowing it slightly, the effects rippled across the global economy. Car manufacturers shut down assembly lines because they could not get the chips for their vehicles. Goldman Sachs estimated that 169 industries were impacted. A 20% shortage of semiconductors caused measurable reductions in GDP growth across multiple countries. And that was from a partial disruption. A full disruption, a Chinese invasion of Taiwan, or even a naval blockade would be something else entirely. A full halt to Taiwan's chip exports would knock multiple percentage points off global GDP. Every advanced manufacturing sector on Earth would be affected for years. The capital investment required to replace Taiwan's chip capacity would run into the trillions of dollars. Even after that money was spent, analysts estimate it would take 15 years for global production to recover because the engineering knowledge and manufacturing experience built up at TSMC over 4 decades cannot simply be copied or relocated. The United States government understands this. In 2022, Congress passed the CHIPS Act, investing $53 billion to rebuild American semiconductor manufacturing. TSMC is building new fabrication plants in Arizona. Intel is building new plants in Ohio, Samsung in Texas. But these plants will not be operational at full capacity for years. And even when they are, they will still depend on ASML machines to make the most advanced chips. The Dutch monopoly is not going away. So here is what the world actually looks like, stripped of the marketing. One Dutch company in a city of 45,000 people makes the only machines that can produce advanced chips. One Taiwanese company on an island 100 miles from China manufactures nearly all of those chips. 2 cities, Veldhoven, Netherlands, Hsinchu, Taiwan. Between them, they control the technological future of humanity. Not through military force, through physics, through engineering, through 3 decades of solving problems everyone else called impossible. Somewhere in Veldhoven right now, workers in full-body suits are assembling a machine that costs more than a fighter jet and fits on a factory floor. They are working in air 10,000 times cleaner than anything outside the building. They are firing lasers at droplets of 50,000 times per second. And what they build will eventually touch, in some way, almost every piece of technology you will use for the rest of your life, without their names on any of it, without most people ever knowing they exist. The most powerful monopoly on Earth is not a social media company. It is not an oil company. It is a Dutch manufacturer in a city most people cannot find on a map, making a machine that most people will never see, that the entire modern world cannot function without. If this changed how you see the technology in your pocket, drop it in the comments. We want to know. And if you want more stories about who actually controls the world, subscribe. The next file is already open.